Another crazy day at the stock market. With all this uncertainty, how on earth am I going to feel comfortable retiring? There has to be a better way to invest my money safely.
There is.
Who said that?
The disembodied voice in your kitchen.
Oh my! Wait, what other way is there?
It's something called a self-directed IRA.
A self-directed IRA?
Yes.
Well, what does it do then, huh?
This IRA allows you to use your 401k and IRA money to invest in alternative assets, such as real estate, notes, and private entities. The stock market can be volatile, and having alternative investments that you are knowledgeable about in your IRA provides a lot less fluctuation and helps diversify your portfolio, so you don't have all your eggs in one basket.
Well, that sounds like a swell idea. How do I get one of those?
All you have to do to get started is open up an IRA with Quest Trust Company. You can call one of our certified IRA specialists at 855-FUN-IRAs and submit an application online now.
How grand! I think I'll call them right now.
But wait, there's more.
There's more.
Don't get burned by the stock market this summer. When you open an account with Quest Trust Company, we'll send you a free toaster. That's right. When you open an account right now with Quest Trust Company, you will get a free toaster. Use promo code TOASTER, right, and call 855-FUN-IRAs and talk to a certified IRA specialist right now.
Hey guys, Derreck Long here from Quest. I've seen that video now a couple of times and it still makes me laugh. If you guys don't know, that's something we're really doing. So thank you so much for joining us on our class today. Today's going to be a unique topic. We're going to be talking about how we can take a small amount of money, how we can invest with 10K or less, all right, and hopefully help grow it for future wealth, all right? If you're one of our older clients and stuff, you may have remembered back in the old days, right, when you'd set up a bank account, savings account, a retirement account, checking account, it didn't matter. The bank, to incentivize you to do it, would always give you a blender. They'd give you a toaster. Well, we took this actually kind of as a joke, but we are serious. If you want to set up an IRA with us today, we will give you a free toaster. You just have to ask for one. Now, before we dive into today's topic, I wanted to talk a little bit about some events that we have up and coming right now. Okay, so the first one, as you guys see up here, is something that we're calling our Quest Summer Intensive. Now, if you guys would like to join this event, it is $25. However, if you send me an email, I'll try my best to get you a free ticket. Now, I only have so many of them, so 50 people email me right now. I can't give all 50 of you a free ticket. But send me an email, and I'll do my best to get you a free one to this event. Every quarter, Quest, we do our best to try to host an event where we bring in speakers outside of Quest. Someone that's not really affiliated with us, someone that we're not promoting or anything like that, and someone who is an expert in a specific area. Last quarter, we did all about notes, whether it was secured notes, unsecured notes, first lien and second lien, and options on notes and selling payments, etc. Well, this quarter, what we'd want to do is a higher end individuals, right? So if you're looking to network or meet people, all right, that are labeled as accredited investors and above, all right, or if you just want to learn how to become an accredited investor and figure out what some of those accredited people are investing into, this is a must-attend event. Now, it is all online. So that being said, since it is all online, what I want to make sure is you reach out to me and let me know if you want to attend. I right now just put the link to this thing down there below to this event, but send me an email. Let me know and I can bring you up there, okay? And I'll do my best to get you a free ticket. However, there's one bigger one I really wanted to talk about, all right? And that is the up and coming in Houston, the Quest Grand Reopening. Yes, COVID, I feel like it's almost there. It's almost done. We're right at the end, and we are allowed to reopen our offices. If you guys don't remember how we used to do this, we would bring in speakers. We'd host classes on a consistent basis in Houston, Austin, and Dallas. We let you come in and pitch your own investments. Right? You get to meet other vendors, you get to meet the speakers, etc. And all of these events are 100% free. Okay, so if you would like to come to our grand opening event, all right, please let us know. Gilbert, thanks for asking. I just put my email right there in the chat box for you. But make sure, guys, you attend this event right here. This is our grand opening. It's going to be in the evening, and we're going to get back to doing these on a weekly basis. That's right, on a weekly basis. Okay, out here in Houston, Dallas, and Austin. So depending on what city you're in, just hop on our website. All right, and figure out when your grand reopening is for your city. All right, I really, really do hope I get to see you there. I miss a lot of you guys. I used to be able to interact so much with a lot of our clients, right? There is something to be said about interacting with people in person, right? There is something to be said about helping someone, holding their hand and walking them through an entire investment using a self-directed IRA. And we can definitely get back to doing that. So if you want an in-person consultation, if you want something like that, please, please, please let me know. Oh, you don't see the email in the chat box. Interesting. Hold on. I see why. So this was I just put a link in there to the grand reopening. Okay. And I'm putting my email in there as well for everybody if they need it. Boom. So there you go, Gilbert. Let me know if you need anything else. I really do hope to see you guys there. Okay. Now, without any further ado, we're going to dive right into today's topic. And today is a unique one and a fun one that I like to teach. I always request when it pops up that I get to teach it myself. And I like to call this class how we can make big bucks with small accounts. Okay, so as we kind of go through these motions, right, if you have any questions, I promise you won't be interrupting me or anything like that. Stop me. Say, hey, Derek, I got a quick question. Raise your hand, put the question in the chat box or in the question box, and I will be going through the motions right there with you, okay? And I'll stop and I'll answer the questions right on the spot. Now, ultimately, a lot of people that start with self-directed IRAs, either A, they've never had a retirement account, okay? Meaning I don't have a 401k. I've been self-employed my whole life. I don't really know where to get started. And I start seeing the tax benefits of the IRA. Or B, what you're really trying to do is help out someone in your family, maybe a kid, maybe a spouse, maybe someone else, a niece and nephew, not an uncle. So we're going to be walking through all these motions fairly simple today. Real quick disclaimer as always, right? I'm only here for your guys' educational information. I can't give investment advice. I can't give you structuring advice on how to structure a deal. Every time I say this, though, people think they need structuring advice, when really there's 100 different ways to structure every single investment. Usually what you need is not structuring advice, but someone to lay it out for you and say, hey, what are ways we can go about this type of transaction? Right? And I say, hey, well, we can do option A, option B, option C, option D. Which way do you want to go through? So make sure you still reach out to each one of us and we'll walk you through a lot of times the ways to go about that. Now, no one really cares too much about this, but a little bit about me. I'm actually not from Texas. I'm also not originally a real estate investor. Quick pause for my coffee. Love my coffee, right? But I actually, after high school, I joined the military. After joining the military, I used my GI Bill to pay for college, which is a great way because I was able to get out of college completely debt-free. I didn't need any help with books or anything like that because the military covered everything. In the Army, I wasn't what I like to call a grunt. I wasn't like the guy kicking in doors and jumping out of helicopters. I was actually an aircraft mechanic. So I worked on the AH-64 Delta, which is a fancy way of saying an Apache helicopter, right? After I got out of the military, I ended up getting a degree in global marketing and then a minor in business administration from Northern Arizona University. So a little bit about me, not that anyone cares. So we're going to dive right into today's topic. Now, before we do so, I always like to say that the IRS, when we go through these motions, puts everyone in two categories. And we have to truly understand these two categories, right? And I label them as entities. We have one entity that I like to say is taxable, right? This is a taxable entity that ultimately, anytime makes profit, makes money, you must pay taxes, okay? Bobby, 101st Airborne, look at that, screaming Eagles, whoop, whoop. So, sorry, I just happened to see his chat there. So, the other entity, though, we have are non-taxable entities. Now, if I understand that the IRS, all right, puts everyone in these two categories, taxable and non-taxable, what entities are we talking about? On the taxable side is what we're really familiar with. You're taxable. When you make money, when you work a job, W-2, 1099, Schedule C, you need to pay taxes. This includes anything that you actually establish, okay? Your LLC, your C Corp, your S Corp, a trust, right? These are great ways for asset protection or to hide your name, but it doesn't hide taxation. So everything you see currently here on the screen, all right, we need to understand that when you do an investment, you make profit and you must pay your taxes. But the IRS truly gives us non-taxable entities, right? Many times non-taxable entities could be something like a charity, a nonprofit organization, a church, okay, a hospital in certain cases. But today we're going to be focusing on three really, and that's the self-directed IRA, a solo 401k, or a QRP plan, right? So these, believe it or not, we can do the same investments on the taxable side that you can do on the non-taxable side. Taxable side, we got to pay taxes. Non-taxable side, we don't pay taxes. I know it seems really basic, but this is the fundamentals of what a self-directed IRA is. Now, every time I say this, the next question I get is, all right, well, how do I get one of those SIDRs? How do I set up a self-directed IRA? Or what are one of those accounts? You know? And ultimately, they're made up. What is a self-directed IRA? An IRA is an IRA is an IRA. You have the same IRA request that you have at a Fidelity or a Charles Schwab or a Merrill Lynch, okay? The real difference comes down to what the bank or the custodian will let you invest in. When I go to Fidelity or Charles Schwab lets me invest my self-directed IRA in public assets, stocks, annuities, mutual funds, bonds, right? Something like that. Now, I would argue that's not truly self-directed, but you can argue it either way you'd like. On the other side of the fence, there's a company like Quest as a custodian. We only let you use your IRA to invest in private assets or tangible assets, something I can touch, feel, see, look at, right? For most people out here, this is going to be a physical property. Notice that there's not one that's better than the other. A lot of my clients will have an account at both places. If I want to buy Apple stock, I have to go to Fidelity. But if I want to buy a property, I have to come to Quest. No custodian is going to allow you to do both, all right? And it's very easy to transfer money back and forth. So understand self-directed, it's a made-up term, it's a marketing term. There really is no such thing to set up one of these accounts, okay? Now, knowing that, we have to start to figure out then what types of plans are truly typically self-directed. And the first ones that always come up are these personal plans. So we have a traditional IRA. Now, traditional IRA is what most people out there will have, whether they realize it or not. These are your 403Bs, 401Ks, pension plans, TRSs, TSPs, right? Something like that. Something where you worked a job, you've been shoveling money away into these accounts, pre-taxed. I mean, you haven't paid any taxes on this money or you've taken tax deductions. Knowing that, it goes into something that's a tax-deferred account like a traditional IRA. Now, what's unique about these is most people have one of these, they don't even realize it. But I think today we're going to be focusing more on that Roth IRA. Remember, this is how we can invest with $10,000 or less, all right? Meaning that if I'm going to do that, I have my choice. I can grow it in my traditional IRA, that $10,000, and you'll see this in some examples coming up. But I can take it in the traditional IRA, grow it to $1 million, but I owe taxes in the future on $1 million. Or in today's examples, we're going to be leveraging accounts like the Roth, where we can grow it completely tax-free and never have to pay taxes again. So we're going to give some examples of both of these, but both of these types of plans can truly be self-directed. So I take a lot of breaks for coffee, guys. Hope you don't mind. Now, there are some employer plans we have out there, SEPs, Simples, 401ks, Roth 401ks. Excuse me. Now, these are really for true self-employed individuals. Every one of these plans can still be self-directed. Quest offers all these plans, the 401ks, right? But you have to be self-employed. Have a company and pay yourself from the company. A lot of people don't do that. When you're self-employed, you're like, oh, I don't want to pay myself because I don't have to pay extra taxes. Well, then you can't set up one of these. Now, a big advantage to these is shoveling a bunch of money. As an example, with the SEP, you could potentially put in $58,000 $10,000 a year. That's huge. Okay. But we teach a whole class on just these accounts because they can be complicated. Let us know if you're interested in one of those accounts. Okay, guys? Lastly, we have what I like to label as specialty accounts. Now, I call these specialties because the first 5 accounts that you saw on the screen all benefit me when I'm older, right? If I grow my Roth IRA, right, to $1 million, I can't touch the profit until I'm 59 and a half. Now I'm only 35. So I got literally 20 plus years to wait until I can touch that money. Whereas the 2 accounts you see here on the screen, I can do these same investments, avoid 100% of the taxes, and spend the money today. That is huge. So the first being the Coverdell account or an ESA. Now the ESA is for your children, meaning you have to have a child under the age of 18. You set it up for them, you put $2,000 in there. It is not a tax deduction. It's very important to understand when you put the $2,000 in there, there's no tax deduction. But now if we can grow this $2,000 into, let's just say, $10,000, that $8,000 in growth is completely tax-free. It's not even reported. And you can pull it out to cover any of that child's school expenses. Now, when we say school expenses, all right, people immediately go to college. This covers so many more things than just college, right? College, absolutely, but it also covers backpacks, school supplies, laptop, computers, tutors, private school, certain after-school activities starting from kindergarten up till the age of 30. Now, remember, you can only set up they're under the age of 18, but they can use it until the age of 30. These accounts are really, really cool. Can you set up an ESA for a grandchild? So Christine, thank you, Christine, for the question. Absolutely, you can. However, the parent does have to sign off saying that you're setting it up for them. However, Christine, you as the individual can still control the account, have what we label as the depositor information, and you're still labeled as the interested party or limited power of attorney. So, but yes, if you have grandkids, you can absolutely set up an ESA. No problem. Great question. Keep the questions coming, guys. You're not going to affect me, I promise. The other account, though, that we have is the health savings account. Now, this is one, I don't have kids, so the ESA doesn't do a lot for me. But the HSA, on the other hand, is fantastic for health expenses. So what happens is I, as an individual, can set up an HSA. I make a contribution to it, all right, the max being $7,100 this year, or $7,100. Okay. Once I put that money in there, I can take that as a tax deduction. Remember, at the ESA, I could not. With the HSA, I can. However, now I can immediately pull out that $7,000 if I wanted to and spend it on any health expenses. Things like your glasses and contacts. All right. Sure, it covers doctor's visits. It can cover certain types of premiums, but it can also cover your dentist visits. It can cover things like over-the-counter medication, multivitamins. Things that we already are buying, bandages and stuff like that for a first aid kit. Your HSA can cover all of those expenses 100% tax-free today. So we're going to give some examples on how to use both these accounts here in the up-and-coming things. So overall, if you do have questions about these, please, once again, always let us know. Can you talk about the one-time IRA rollover into an HSA? Great question. So one of our clients here on the line is asking about, can I take money from one of my other plans, right, that we showed earlier, right? You know, one of these SEP Simples 401ks, a traditional IRA, Roth IRA, and move it to my HSA. Absolutely you can. But you can only do it once in your life up to the contribution limit. Normally what happens is I see this done when someone usually just retires, right? Or they're just now moving their 401k out. What they want to do then is they're like, hey, look, I have $100,000 in that 401k and I don't want to take all the tax hit. So let me take $7,000 and I'll move it to my HSA. Meaning now I can immediately remove that money from my HSA, completely tax-free, right? And use it for health expenses today. So we can only do that once in our life, but we can move money from a taxable bucket, our traditional IRA, our SEP IRA, our 401k, to an HSA up to the contribution limit. Now, we talk a lot more about that and dive deep into that in our HSA class. So make sure if you want a copy of that class, send me an email, I'll put my email here again in the chat box just so people can have it. And if anyone has any questions, you let me know. Yeah. So great questions. All right. Now that we're past the formalities, let's dive into deep of what this real class is about. How do we make a small account into a big account? What is the key to do so? And honestly, why am I qualified? I think that's very important to understand. At 35 years old, right? To be brutally honest, I don't have $1 million sitting in my retirement account. I'm getting close, but I'm not there yet. Now, why? Let's talk about it. Let's figure out what we can do to take that small dollar account and grow it large. And the one thing that we need to understand is leverage, right? Leverage, right? We have to understand what are we leveraging, right? How to leverage it and who to leverage. So I kind of came up with a definition. I used straight from Urban Dictionary, right? Followed by Webster's version of the dictionary. And we try to come up with what would be a great definition of what is leverage. The use of a small initial investment in order to gain a very high rate of return in relation to what you originally invested. Think about that. If I can invest $100 into a penny stock and grow it to be $1 million, that's a great way to do it. Unfortunately, that's almost gambling when I talk about the stock market. So can we do this with tangible assets? Absolutely, we can. We can do this with property. So let's figure out how to. We have to figure out then what is it that we are able to leverage. All right. So the first thing I like to say is we need to learn how to leverage money. Now, when I say this, remember, in every one of these examples, you have under $10,000. Okay. So when I say leverage money, we're not leveraging my money as the investor. We're leveraging someone else's money. It's very important to understand because there's different types of leverage out there. And leveraging someone else's money to benefit your needs today is the key. Time. Certain investments out there, some of us can't do because we don't have the time to do it. Prime example in some of these is let's talk about land. If I was going to buy land and sit on it for 30 years because I know the land's going to appreciate big time in value, well, that's probably a fairly decent investment at the age of 35. But if I'm 80 years old, I may not have 35 years to go ahead and sit on a piece of land for that amount of time, right? So I would argue then we have to define what time is. Time is your personal time, either A, that you're putting into the project, or time being the length of the investment, 2 types of time. And we'll talk about that and give some examples as well. Next is your talent. Everyone out there has a different level of talent, right? As an example, I'm a terrible wholesaler. I really am. I've tried it. Okay. But I'm honestly really great at analyzing the deal. So why am I bad at wholesaling? Well, I'm bad at it because I'm not good at marketing that aspect. I'm not good at marketing my property out. So wholesaling is not for me. Right. But since I'm good at analyzing a deal, I like to pick up rentals. I can look at a deal from a different wholesaler, maybe if they're wholesaling me a property, and make a fairly decent offer. All right. So what is your talent? No one out there can tell you what your talent is. Only you can. And so we can leverage our money, our time, our talent, and our network. This is probably the biggest one. You'll notice in some of the examples coming up that every one of these will seem to come into play at some point in time. One, it might just be the money. It might just be my time, or it might be your talent. But every single one is your network. You must, in real estate, have a good network in order to make some of these investments happen. It is an absolute must. You won't find anyone wealthy out there that doesn't have that type of network. They have people they can rely on to lend them money, to borrow money, right? They have people that can vet deals. They have attorneys on the team. They have an IRA specialist to help them with their retirement account. Leverage your network, which brings us back to traveling to some of those events. Don't forget about our grand opening coming up in about 3 weeks. Okay, guys? So without any further ado, let's look at some case studies. We're going to dive into this first case study and talk about it just a little bit and why it makes sense. Okay. So this is a case study about a friend down in Corpus Christi. His name's, he used to run a group called Cowboys in Real Estate, but because of COVID, they haven't really jumped back into it. But funny is his wife is a attorney, right? And I always like to say that him and his wife, they have kids, and man, their kids are expensive. Anyone out there who has kids would probably agree with this. I don't. I have a dog, right? You ever see my dog? I love my dog. But kids are very expensive. So Alan, his son, actually goes to a private school. Okay, it's very expensive. It's out there down, like I said, in Corpus Christi, and he is a good wholesaler. Once again, he's leveraging his talent because he's good at wholesaling. But he has a couple of problems. Hey, if you remember, I said his wife was an attorney. His wife, being an attorney, all right, makes fairly decent money. She's just a note attorney, nothing special, right? Doesn't have to do too much with court cases, but really deals in drafting notes and deeds of trust for lenders. This means that she already makes a decent amount of money, and him wholesaling also makes a decent amount of money. So Alan found a property, and instead of using a wholesale contract, he ends up using an option contract in this example, right? But he found a true distressed seller that ended up inheriting the property. They didn't know what to do with it, and Alan had an idea. He says, hey, look, I'm going to use my option contract, right, and give me 90 days. Right? If I can sell your property in 90 days, then boop, you'll walk away happy and I'll walk away happy. Or if I don't sell it in 90 days, you get to keep my $1,000 earnest money. Now, the seller says that sounds like a pretty good idea because A, they don't know what to do with it, right? They really don't. So Andy starts fumbling through and he's like, all right, I got two ways to do this deal. I can put this option contract or this wholesale contract under my taxable entity, my LLC, my trust, my C Corp. Meaning when my LLC wholesales this contract and makes profit, what happens? I can spend the profit today, but it's taxable. And remember, between Alan and his wife, they're already in a very high income bracket. Okay. Now, at the same time, he says, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do this deal in my son's ESA. Remember, his son goes to a private school. So if he does the deal in his ESA, is it reported? First off, nope. No income is being reported today. Next, how much of those earnings are taxable? Zero. So instead of him pulling $1,000 out of his LLC, he took that same $1,000, made a contribution to the ESA, and the earnest money came from the ESA account. All right. So think about that. The money was the same thing. It was the same amount of money, but he chose to have the ESA put the house under contract, not his LLC. All right. Well, time goes on as normal. When he submits the contract and stuff, the contract said, hey, look, his ESA is the one that's going to own this, not himself. Boop, we get that. Now, after a couple of months, right, because I think he had 90 days in total, the way he tells the story, but he was able to assign this contract to someone else for an additional $10,000, meaning he put $1,000 down, and he's now making $10,000, $9,000 in profit. Not bad. I'm not getting rich off that. Right? I'm not retiring off $9,000 in profit, but think of what was created. All right. Now, more importantly, out of that $9,000 in profit that he made, he immediately withdrew $5,000 tax-free. Why? Well, that $5,000 that he withdrew was used for his kids' education, private school. Right? Not bad. Once again, I'm liking this because notice how he's leveraging not only his talent, right? Leverage his network, and now leveraging a non-taxable account to make these type of things happen. All right. The Coverdell account, remember, is used to pay for any school expenses for his kids, which no matter what, he has to pay. So would I rather pay that $5,000 from my taxable entity, or to make $5,000, I really probably have to make closer to $7,000. Pay taxes on $7,000, I get $5,000 and pay the bill, or actually make money in the ESA and not pay any taxes. This is huge. All right. Therefore, he also ended up saving the remaining balance for future investments and college in the future if that was something his son was interested in. So let's talk about a little bit in just this specific case study, what was leveraged. First thing, arguably, was his talent, right? Obviously, as Andy was going through these, or as Alan was going through these, he had to have the talent of being a wholesaler. Once again, I've tried. I'm not very good at it. But some of you guys are out there. Some of you are good at hustling. You're good at door knocking. You're good at, networking with people and going to events and hanging those flyers and putting out the lawn signs. I'm not good at that stuff, but some of you are. The next thing that he leveraged, notice, is his network. Man, if he didn't have a network, meaning he didn't travel to events, he didn't go to things like our grand opening, hint, 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 coming up, well, then it just doesn't make sense. It's too hard to make these things work. So if you want to invest with 10K or less, you need to first have a talent that you're good at and develop a great network. Okay? Let's look at the next case study. I like this one. This is a real one, and this is a real picture of the land. But I found this cheap piece of land, and it was $9,500. This is a very important real estate investment to me because prior to this, anytime I did a real estate deal, I worked with my dad. Okay? And the reason that's important to understand is I felt comfortable going through the motions because my dad was there to review the transactions. I had someone that was familiar and worked in real estate for 20 plus years who understood what it looked like. Whereas this one, nope, didn't even talk to him about it. He didn't even know I bought it until after it was the warranty deed was already closed and we're already done at title because I felt that confident. So for me, this was really, really important. But I found this cheap piece of land and it was $9,500. That's a real picture of it. Looks rough. Now, this land was actually purchased in Ocala, Florida. Anyone who knows where Ocala is, I'm sorry. All right. But me and Brian's plan was to sit on this land for about 15 years, give or take, because the city is growing out that way. Now, the reason Brian's involved, I didn't have $9,500 at the time. Interesting. I don't even have the 10 grand that I need for this deal. So what happens? What did I do? I said, you know what? I can come up with half of it. So I called up Brian, right? He's a good Army buddy of mine. Me and him were at Fort Riley, Kansas together. So if you've ever been stationed there, don't do it if you can help it. But we both made an offer, right? We bought the land. And when we physically read the warranty deed or the contract, I read like what you see on the screen. Quest Trust Company, for the benefit of, my IRA owns 50% and Brian's IRA owns 50%. This means at closing, we each sent a little over $4,700 off. Notice we've only invested $4,700 a piece. Not bad, okay? But once again, I had to come down to the decision. Do I want to use my taxable entity or my non-taxable entity? Remember, when am I going to make money in this deal? Not till I'm old. We're planning on sitting on this piece of land for 15 years, 10 years, something like that. We don't really know how long, but we know the city's growing out that way. Okay, so that's why we bought this, is just to strictly sit on this land. So let's do it in our non-taxable entity. We know we can't spend that money today. This means it makes sense to use our Roth IRAs to purchase this. Okay, now, what was really funny is something I always label as magical happened. Is that piece of that picture I took was actually right here. I was standing right here, took a picture of this little piece of land. Okay. Now, since then, most of these houses have been sold and somewhat demolished because of this golf course. All right, that's over here. Gotta love drones nowadays. You get some really cool pictures. But what ended up happening is when I bought this land, this golf course is owned by a country club. And they wanted this for who knows what reason. And they were actually trying to buy it from the guy that we bought the land from about 5 years prior. And when they went and bought the land, he just told them, I don't want to sell to you. I don't like you. I'm not selling to you. I'm not selling to you. And they finally gave up. So 5 years went by, and out of dumb luck, I happened to be the person because I had a good realtor, right? My realtor knew the guy and said, hey, why don't you just sell it to my partner, my friend over here? And bam, I was able to get the land. So it was real lucky, but they made me an offer for $15,500. That literally means in 45 days, all right, is what it took to go from buying it to reselling it. We each made $7,700 came back to us, tax free. Not bad. Building wealth through unique techniques, right? That's what I like to call it. So I understand, once again, we didn't make millions of dollars. You're not going to do that with a 10K or less account, guys. But we got to start somewhere, okay? So when we go through these motions, you need to understand that a lot of times we're not looking for that home run deal that makes us $1 million. We're looking for what we can to build up our Roth IRAs, our HSAs, our ESAs to get us to that next level. So what can be some of our takeaways here? First off, 2 people partnered together. I, as an individual, only invested $4,700. So did Brian. The percentage, if we look at just the rate of return alone, was over 58%. You find that in a mutual fund, a CD, a stock market, I don't care. Good luck. And have it be tangible, right? This can be done with your children's accounts. We could have, if we had kids, used an ESA, right? And spend all that money today. All profits, 100% of them were truly tax-free. Notice that if we did this deal personally in our taxable entity, we would have had to pay capital gains tax on that land. Ouch. That hurts. You know, it eats into our profit. So I love to say that how me and Brian were in control the whole time. For some reason, there's this misconception about self-directed IRAs that when you use an IRA, you lose control, right? All because you have a custodian involved. No, I didn't do anything different. I found the land, made an offer, worked with the agent and the title company. If there was a bank involved and it was debt leveraged, well, then I would have worked with the bank. The only difference was, did I want to use my taxable entity or my non-taxable entity, that self-directed IRA, right? So what did we leverage? Our network, our time, and other people's money. How did I leverage my time? The first thing was the time frame we planned on sitting on the land. If I'm only investing such a small amount of money, I want to make sure there's going to be building wealth for me quickly, okay? Now, how did I define quickly? I wanted to sell the land originally for $100,000. Remember, we bought it for less than 10, okay? Now, if I know that, that means I need to be growing that by 10 grand every single year. That was the plan, okay? Now, we got lucky, so we leveraged a different type of time. The time we end up leveraging then instead was, well, we could sit on this land for the next 10 years, or because we made a bunch of money real quickly, let's just let it go, all right? Because now we have more time to develop and work on other projects, right? Getting some questions in here from Kevin. Let's see. If you had kept the land for many years, could you have paid the property taxes from the IRA? Excellent question, Kevin. So Kevin was asking that if I would have kept this land, would my IRA have to pay the property taxes? Absolutely, it would have. What's nice about that is, what are the property taxes on land? Beep. They're cheap. That's why I don't mind owning land in my IRA. When we own big properties, right? If that was a $500,000 home, well, property taxes is something to more consider in the IRA because I can't just contribute $1 million if I need to. Okay, but great question, Kevin. Network. Where did my network come into play? 2 aspects. A, the realtor. We would have never found this deal because it was an off-market lead, right, that the realtor got to us. I have a great realtor out here in Texas. Her name's Danielle. If you want her information, let me know and I'll give you Danielle's info. Okay, great realtor, especially for the Houston market. All right. Lastly, was other people's money. At the very beginning of this, right, I did not have enough money to do the deal, but it made sense. So I found a good partner. I found someone that I wanted to work with. I found someone that trusted me and I trusted them. We partnered together to buy the deal to make our capital work together. Quit being so selfish. So many of you call me and you don't have enough money to make a deal happen, all because you didn't want to give up equity, give up some ownership, give up some profit to someone else to make the deal work. That's crazy. There's so many partners out there and so many people that are right in here right now, right, that you can leverage and talk to. What about being a disqualified person using your IRA? Love it. Eddie asked me about, can my IRA partner with other people? And yes, it can, Eddie. We're going to talk about some disqualified people in the very next case study. So we're going to see how that works. Which leads to case study 3. Okay. This is from a lending and borrowing perspective. Now, what's funny is the scope of the project is I had a fix and flipper approach me, and he found a house. It was $120,000 to buy it. It needed in between $60,000 to $70,000 in rehab, but the ARV was $275,000. So he still makes a decent amount of money, but he really only needed a small loan. This fix and flipper was really unique here. He's to this day, I think, still owns about 30 to 35 properties. Now, knowing that he owns so many houses, so many properties, he had a line of credit from the bank. But to keep his line of credit open, he always had to have some sort of revolving cash in there. So he told me, hey, look, Derek, I need $30,000. And if you give me $30,000, I'll give you a first lien position on this house. Listen to that. $30,000. Worst case scenario, the house is worth $120,000. Best case scenario, the house is worth $275,000. Not bad. I'll take it. 9% and 2 points on the back end. Now, he originally didn't want to pay any points, but we kind of negotiated out a little bit. Ultimately, I thought this was a really, really unique deal. Once again, guys, I don't have 30 grand. Actually, I think at this point in time, I did really have $30,000, but I didn't want to use my own personal money. Okay. So $30,000, that's way above our $10,000 limit, Derek. What are you talking about? So what was my plan? Here's an exact picture of the promissory note. Okay. Notice this was dated July 5th, 2019. Okay. But the lender, I got a zoomed in picture of it, is right here. If we do the math, remember the guy that was borrowing the funds only needed $30,000. Now, instead of me using my IRA only for 30 grand, I took 25% from my Roth IRA. I took 3% from my HSA, right? I took 25% from my fiance's IRA, 20% from her dad's, and 26% from Brian's. Yep, Brian came back into play again. It's kind of funny. Now, if we look at this list, Brian on here is a non-disqualified person. What does that mean? My IRA can technically invest into him with probably no issues. All right. He doesn't inherit my wealth. We don't live together. Nothing like that. All right. Just a good army buddy. But Alyssa and her dad Andres are what I would argue disqualified to me. This is because my IRA will be inherited by Alyssa. Right? If Alyssa passed away, I would inherit her account. And we can't lend money to one another. But why can I partner together? It's because we're on the same side of the fence. So, Eddie, this was your question. All right. Even though me and Alyssa are disqualified to one another, I'm not using my IRA and giving money to Alyssa. Me and my IRA are on the same side of the fence, and we're lending money to an investor. That's the difference. So too many times people think disqualified people mean I can't work with my family members. That is not what it means. It means you can't lend money, right, to a spouse. You can't buy yourself a house with your IRA. That's how the disqualified people work. Okay. So awesome, Eddie. Cool. You said got it. Keep the questions coming, guys. I love them. Now, one more thing to remember is when I look at this whole list, I have 4 IRAs and 1 HSA. When do I get to benefit from my IRA's investments? When I'm old, right? When I'm 59 and a half. But when do I get to benefit from my HSA's investments? Today. So now I'm literally leveraging 2 different accounts, even though it's only a 3%. My HSA, I think, was making $20 a month on this deal, but that's $20 free to me, tax-free, that I can spend however I'd like. An extra $20 a month. That's beer money. That's gas money that I don't have to report. Think about it. So I always like to talk about some of the takeaways on this deal. Now, the borrower was able to profit today by leveraging someone else. So remember, we got to always remember, what are we trying to leverage in this aspect? Okay. So am I leveraging for me? Am I leveraging someone else? The borrower leveraged me. I leveraged multiple people in my family or close friends to make this deal happen. Funds were gathered from everybody. Yes, even disqualified people. Once again, we got to think outside the box. When I look at my checking account, okay, and I see, oh, I don't have enough money to do this deal. That's the wrong way to think about it. I go, does my dad have money? Does my grandma? Does my mom? Does my brother, my sister, my fiance? Does her parents? Because we can put all this money together. We can do an investment with it. We can make it work for us in order to grow the accounts. Okay. I was also able to profit today and profit in the future. Remember, I profited today by leveraging my HSA account, and I profited in the future by growing my Roth IRA completely tax-free. One thing we really haven't talked too much about is security. I had security the whole time. How did I have security? If we remember, the borrower gave me a first lien position for 30 grand. Sold, right? And he was a good borrower too. I'd do another loan to him. I really would if he needed it. The guy never needs money. It's funny. When you find a good borrower, guys, keep them happy, okay? So when I invest in the stock market, can I make my Apple stocks go up? Can I make them go down? No. I have zero control. Sometimes people don't realize that. They don't have control. They can't make their cryptocurrency go up in value or down in value. They're gambling, right? Whereas in this type of investment, I actually had security. I can go touch the property, feel it, see it, look at it. It's only about 3 miles away from where I currently live. Not bad. All right. So all profits in this example were 100% tax-free. This is something that too many of you guys out there forget, that even though we might find a good deal and I make $50,000 in profit, I don't get to keep $50,000. Uncle Sam always comes in and he goes, boop, and takes his little percentage out. Whereas if I can leverage a true self-directed IRA, I can really avoid 100% of the taxation. All right, guys. So we're kind of coming to a close just a little bit. So if you have questions, let me know. All right. Once again, let's figure out what was leveraged. First off was talent. What talent of mine was leveraged? I'd say the biggest talent was bringing family together. All right. Fast and the Furious style. Family. All right. I'd use not just my money, but my friends' money, my family's money. My network. If I didn't know the borrower and the borrower didn't know me, that deal would have never happened. Okay. Lastly is understanding how to leverage multiple sources of income and multiple people's IRAs. People too many times, they get so hung up with, I don't have the money. I don't have the money. All right. And they're so focused on themselves. They don't even look within their own family, let alone their own network or their own friends. People give up and pass up on deals all the time because, well, I don't have 30,000, so I'm not going to make my 9%. And put in $5,000, come up with the other 25. There you go. You still get 9% just on your $5,000. Don't be afraid to give up some of your deal to make a deal happen. All right, guys. I always like to talk about certain ways we can build our network, because a lot of you notice in every single one of these case studies, you had to have a network, right? Business cards. You ever see me at an event? I have business cards in both jacket pockets. And I'm always like, bring them out, right? Make sure people know who you are. When people think IRA, I want them to think of Derreck Long. I love it that they think of Quest, but ignoring Quest, I want everyone to know that, hey, I have a self-directed IRA guy. That is Derreck Long. Reach out to him. Here's his business card. A lot of times I give people multiple business cards. I really want them to remember me. Don't be shy. Anyone who knows me at an event, I'm not shy. I'm loud. I'm obnoxious. I love investing. I love networking. I love meeting new people, right? It's okay. Say it loud. Say it proud. Get out there. Always have an elevator pitch. This is one that took me a while. This one really did. I think this one was tough for me because I like to talk. I'm one of those guys I like to hear myself talk to. It's rough. But this also means that sometimes you can lose people. Make sure you have something you can say in 10 seconds, 15 seconds tops. Hey, man, my name's Derek. I like to lend money to fix and flippers. If you have a deal, let me know. I also deal in self-directed IRAs. Hit me up if you have any questions. So go to local RIAs and travel to education events. There's so many events out there, right? Especially across Texas. People like Steve Vehel, who runs the Wealth Club. Bill and Chanel Grove, who run the Houston RIA, the Austin RIA, and the Dallas, the DFW RIA, right? There's so many people out there. Ron Rayner runs an awesome wholesaling event if you're trying to meet wholesalers to learn how to be a wholesaler. These groups out there can do so many things for you, help you network and meet people, and they're all free. When I hear people can't find a deal, I go, well, when was the last time you went to an event? What did you, no, oh, you haven't? Well, there you go. Let's start there. Okay. So make sure you're leveraging each one of these to help build your network. Dean sent me a question. How much can my IRA gain on a given transaction before the Internal Revenue starts questioning? Great question. So I always like to say that it has to pass the smell test. All right. Because technically there is no limit. If I invest $10 and I grew it to $1 million, there is no limit how much I can grow my investment. But if I only invested $10 and 2 weeks later that $10 really is worth $1 million, it probably will raise some red flags. So I always tell people it needs to pass the smell test. I had a client of mine who actually uses ESA. It was doing a subject to deal. On this subject to, he invested about 15, 20K on it and his kid's ESA. And he didn't really mean to, but he ended up having to take over the property, and almost overnight, his $15,000 turned into $250,000. And he freaked out. He was like, oh my God, I mean, I'm glad I own the property, but is something going to happen? Is the IRS going to see? No, nothing ever happened. They didn't even seem to take a second look at it because that's how real estate works. Okay. But make sure it does pass the smell test. All right. Great question, Dean. I hope that kind of helps. Does doubling the value in 30 days pass the smell test? Potentially. I mean, that's always one of those investment advice things. So only an attorney will ever say solid yes or no to that. But I'd say potentially. I mean, if we look at just some of my examples, I took $4,700 and 45 days later, it grew to a little over 10. That's pretty normal, especially in real estate. It's not that bad. Look at Andy. Andy invested $100,000, or Alan invested $1,000 on a wholesale contract and made it to 10 in 60 days. Pretty normal, especially in real estate. So doubling the value, I don't think that's unrealistic. I always like to talk a little bit about Quest, right? We don't have expedited fees. We have a really highly trained staff. We always try our best to host those educational events for you guys, like this one. Right? We always want to make sure you give the best consultations out there possible. Now, this last week was 4th of July. I've mentioned multiple times about my Army buddies, and I spent a lot of time in the military. So I asked, because this promotion technically actually ended over the weekend. Okay, guys? But for 4th of July, if you'd like to set up an IRA, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to send me an email. Now, this is only good for the rest of the day. I have it up there for 24 hours, but it's technically less than that. It's probably close to about 15 to 18 hours. All right? If you want to set up an IRA, I will waive your application fee. All you got to do is send me an email, okay, at DerreckLong@questtrust.com. I'm putting it in the chat box now. We'll use the coupon code FREEDOM21, and I'll set you up an account 100% free. You got about 24 hours to get it done, and let me know. If any of you guys want the slides to this presentation, I'll be happy to email them over to you. Send me an email as well. And I really do hope this helps. So with that being said, guys, I think we're going to go ahead and close it out. There's no other questions. Give people about 2 seconds to end it. And if not, one more second. If my IT guys then can go ahead and end the presentation, that'd be great, guys. And thank you so much. I hope to see you around. Don't forget to email me and visit us at www.questtrustcompany.com. So thank you, and I will see you soon. Woohoo! You're welcome, Marcella. Bye, guys. Don't forget to email me if you have any questions. Hi, Jim. Aw, I'm seeing all the names pop up. Love it. I'm still on here.